Have you ever tried to have a real honest conversation with someone only to walk away feeling confused and unheard? You ask a simple question, but the answer you get is a confusing jumble of words, a complete change of topic, or even blame. This experience is incredibly common when you are dealing with a person who has narcissistic traits. Their world is built on a carefully constructed image of perfection and control. Certain questions threaten to knock down that fragile wall, exposing the emptiness they work so hard to hide. Understanding these unanswerable questions is not about winning an argument, it is about recognizing a pattern that protects you and your own sense of reality. These difficult questions are like keys that try to unlock a door the narcissist wants to keep permanently shut. The door leads to their true self, a place filled with insecurity and a lack of genuine identity. To answer honestly would require self-reflection, vulnerability, and accountability, three things that are almost impossible for a person with this personality style. They have spent their entire lives avoiding these feelings. So when you ask something that requires them to look inward, their defense mechanisms immediately kick in. This isn't just about being secretive, it's a survival tactic for them. They must protect their fabricated self at all costs, even if it means confusing and hurting the people around them. The pattern of deflection and evasion is a major red flag in any relationship. A healthy connection is built on open communication and the willingness to be vulnerable with each other. When one person consistently dodges questions about their feelings, motivations, or personal flaws, it creates an imbalance. You are left constantly guessing, trying to piece together a puzzle with missing pieces. This dynamic is exhausting and can make you doubt your own perceptions. Recognizing that their inability to answer is about them, not you, is the first step toward reclaiming your clarity and peace of mind. It's a sign that you are not in a reciprocal relationship. In this essay, we will explore some of the specific questions that narcissists simply cannot answer with honesty and clarity. We will look at why these questions are so threatening to their sense of self, and what their typical evasive responses look like. From questions about personal happiness to their confusing relationship cycles, you will see a consistent theme emerge. The goal is to arm you with knowledge, so you can spot these patterns, understand the dynamics at play, and make more informed decisions about the relationships in your life. This is about protecting your own well-being from the confusion they create. Let's start with a question that seems simple on the surface. What truly makes you happy? For most people, happiness is an internal feeling connected to relationships, passions, or a sense of peace. For a narcissist, happiness is almost always tied to external validation, what we call narcissistic supply. They might point to a new car, a recent promotion, or the initial excitement of a new relationship. Their happiness is a fleeting high that comes from something outside of themselves. Because it's not generated from within, it doesn't last. What made them happy last month is boring to them today, leaving them in a constant state of seeking the next shiny object. Now consider asking them, what would you change about yourself? This question demands self-awareness and humility, two qualities a narcissist actively avoids. An honest answer would mean admitting they are not perfect, which shatters their entire self-image. A grandiose narcissist might laugh and say something like, "Why would I want to change perfection?" They genuinely cannot see any flaws. A more vulnerable narcissist might give a superficial answer like, "I wish I had blue eyes instead of brown," to appear reflective without actually admitting to a real character flaw. They deflect from any meaningful self-improvement because, in their mind, the problem is always with everyone else, never with them. Another question that stumps them is, why do you believe you deserve special treatment? Narcissists walk through life with a profound sense of entitlement. They expect the best of everything without feeling the need to earn it. If you ask them to justify this belief, they cannot provide a logical reason. Their reasoning is circular. I deserve it because I'm me. They might be a high achiever in one area, like their career, and use that success to justify deserving special treatment in all other areas of life where it is not warranted. They genuinely believe the rules that apply to everyone else simply do not apply to them, and they are baffled when this view is challenged. The inability to answer these questions reveals the core issue, a fragile and hollow sense of self. Their identity is built on external praise and a false sense of superiority, not on genuine values or internal contentment. When you ask them to look inside for answers about happiness, personal flaws, or their place in the world, they have nothing to draw from. The only response is to deflect, devalue the question, or become angry. This is because you are unknowingly asking them to face the very emptiness they spend their entire lives running away from. Their evasiveness is a shield protecting a deeply insecure core. One of the most painful and confusing areas is a narcissist's understanding of love. Ask them directly, "What is love?" or "Why do you love me?" and you will likely receive a shallow or confusing answer. They often mistake the intense feelings of infatuation and lust for genuine love. This is why they love bomb you at the beginning of a relationship, showering you with attention and declaring you're their soulmate after only a few weeks. They are addicted to the initial high of a new connection. For them, love is not about deep emotional intimacy, support and empathy. It is about how you make them feel about themselves. It is a transactional experience. This confusion about love directly leads to another unanswerable question. Why do you discard me and then keep coming back? This is the classic, idealize, devalue, discard Hoover cycle. A narcissist cannot give you a logical explanation for this cruel pattern. When they are trying to Hoover you back in, they will offer a romanticized excuse claiming they had an epiphany and realized you are the only one for them. However, if you ask them about it when they are not trying to win you over, they will likely get angry, call you crazy for asking, or blame you for the relationship's failure. They cannot admit that you are an interchangeable source of supply that they discard when bored and retrieve when lonely. The truth is, they lack the emotional empathy required to form a deep, lasting bond. Healthy relationships evolve past the initial infatuation stage into a more stable, committed partnership. This is precisely the point where a narcissist checks out. When the relationship requires real work, compromise and authentic connection, they grow bored and seek a new source of excitement and validation. They view relationships as disposable because they see people as objects to be used for their own gratification. They assume everyone operates this way, so they feel no guilt about their behavior. When you try to get clarity on these patterns, you are essentially asking them to explain a system that is fundamentally illogical and emotionally stunted. They do not understand love as a stable, empathetic connection, so they cannot explain why their version of it is so chaotic. They cannot explain the discard and Hoover cycle because to them, it is just what they do to get their needs met. Confronting them about this behavior is like asking a fish to describe what it's like to be wet. It is their reality, and they are incapable of seeing it from an outside, objective perspective. What happens when you call out their evasiveness directly? Imagine asking, "Why won't you ever give me a straight answer to my questions?" This is a question about accountability, which is a narcissist's greatest fear. Pinned into a corner, they will not suddenly become honest. Instead, they will deploy their most powerful defensive tools. One common tactic is narcissistic word salad, a confusing mix of circular reasoning, unrelated points, and jargon that is designed to overwhelm you. You walk away from the conversation feeling more confused than when you started, which is exactly their goal. The conversation goes nowhere because there is nowhere for it to go. The reason they cannot answer is that, in their minds, there are no real answers to give. From their distorted perspective, love is a mystery, entitlement is a given, and their behavior is always justified. Answering your question honestly would mean admitting they are intentionally evasive to maintain control and avoid being exposed. This level of self-awareness is something they do not possess. Confronting them about their lack of accountability is perceived as a direct attack on their character. This will almost always provoke frustration, rage, or a complete shutdown, as you are challenging the very foundation of their false self. This leads us to the ultimate question that flips the script on them. Why are you always the victim? Narcissists are masters of playing the victim. It is their go-to strategy for deflecting blame and gaining sympathy. When you point out their own harmful actions, they will expertly twist the narrative to position themselves as the one who was wronged. By asking this question, you are holding a mirror up to their primary defense mechanism. This forces them into a corner, because if they are not the victim, then they must be the villain. Their fragile ego cannot handle being seen as the bad guy. Therefore, they cannot answer why they are always the victim without their entire reality collapsing. Admitting to a pattern of victimhood would mean acknowledging their manipulative behavior. In their worldview, they are perpetually misunderstood, unappreciated, and attacked for no reason. This victim stance is not just a tactic, it is a core part of their identity. Challenging it is the ultimate threat. Understanding this pattern is crucial. When you are faced with constant deflection, word salad, and victimhood, you are not failing to communicate. you are successfully identifying someone who is incapable of honest, accountable communication.